So this is my 36 Hudson Terraplane. I'll show you around it and tell you what we did. This was done a couple years before we started our YouTube channel. 36, basically the body style is 1 year only. It's got a Ford Flathead with a S10 5-speed in it with an adapter from Speedway. It's got an 8-inch rear end. I was looking for, it took about 12 years to get it to this point. I was looking for a project car and I wanted to do a flathead engine, and I'm into AMC cars, and this was as close as I could get. And I actually liked it because it has all four, it's a 4-door, and they're all 4 suicide doors. Yeah, and the interior is mostly done. I'll show you that shortly. I've done lots of work to the motor and everything on here. It was a nut and bolt. Every nut and bolt was taken apart and cleaned or replaced. And we'll show you around. Yeah, so this is the 36 Terraplane. I bought it off eBay. It came from a little town in Minnesota, Angusville. Bought it about 14 years ago, and it's been on the road for 2 years. I've taken it back to the 50s last year, and it drove and performed perfectly. And well, we'll start with the chassis. We basically took the body off it, stripped, sandblasted everything. The body was sandblasted, the frame was sandblasted. I kept the front suspension stock. You can get a shot under. It's a solid front axle, leaf spring axle. It's a pretty weird setup. It's got trailing arms on the axle, even though it has the leaf springs. It was supposed to keep the ride smoother, and it's a unique grill. You'll see them on rat rods, and it's a 1 year only grill. The other ones on rat rods they use is 37s. They're similar. Even the actual Hudson one are different than the Terraplane. It's got an 8-inch rear end out of a early 70s Comet with 355 gears. As I said, the transmission's out of an 80s S10, so it's a 5-speed with it's got an overdrive, so it's excellent on the highway. Stock steering, stock leaf springs in the rear. We replaced a few leaves with brand new ones from cracked ones. We made the gas tank was rotten, and so to prevent it was easier we decided to make one, other than we had to go to the junkyard and start scrounging and making up different brackets. But we decided to make one out of sheet metal, spot welded up, leaded it, and sealed it, and sealed the inside, and it's been working perfectly. It's got electric fuel pump. Other than that, made my own stainless steel exhaust. It's coming out the side. I think it sounds a little cooler with cherry bombs, straight cherry bombs off the Flathead. It sounds great. That's about it for the chassis. Getting into the body. Originally had only a single taillight on the driver's side, because it's a Brougham model. It didn't have turn signals, but I managed to find this bucket. It's an NOS one on eBay. I bought it. A couple years later, someone was recasting the stands. They're cast aluminum, so I bought a pair of them off eBay and polished them up. The original ones are just pot metal with chrome or nickel plated. It's got dual handles on the trunk lid, which is fairly, well, it's unique. Said, yeah, four door, all doors open backwards. So thought that was pretty cool. Still haven't completely done the interior. Yeah, the headlight buckets, I didn't have the lenses, and they're very difficult to find. So it came like this with an old, someone converted to sealed beams, probably in the early 40s or 50s. The last time this was on the road was 57. Yeah, it was in a farmyard in Minnesota, and it had the insurance, or the driver's license, and it was insured in 57. Original front bumper. Original brackets. The turn signals I added, I made these brackets out of a solid chunk of aluminum and milled them down on a milling machine and sanded them, polished them. Works great. I found the original ornament was yellow, and it was busted off in the front, so I bought some plastic off eBay, and then my cousin used his lathe and shaped it down, fitted it, and looks like an original one. That's good. All this is original. Originally this would have been all just silver painted, but I decided to break it up and paint the inside body color. Original chrome strips. This one's been replaced. The original one was rusted. That's another eBay purchase. That's original. It's just been painted silver right now because I gotta either get it cast a new one or get that one chromed. I'm not sure what I'm gonna do. For the running boards, this has all been, the original one was all rotted out, and you can't find parts for the body parts for this thing. They're very, very hard. It's a 1 year only body. Nothing from a 35 will fit, nothing from a 37 will fit, or at least not much. So I decided to try and make my own. This is about the 5th attempt. Originally it's supposed to have, I don't know if you can see it from the fender, front fender, a little bead. That's supposed to be running all the way around. I decided it's just going to be easier. I just ended the bead there at the front and rounded it over. There's a steel bar under there to help protect it. And it worked out excellent. The running board mat, I could buy replacements. They're very expensive, probably about $700 for a pair. So I went to Home Depot, bought some rubber mat, and glued it on, and that one's been on there for 4 years, and looks still good to me. Does its job. It's got 16-inch original 16-inch rims. The rims are not original. They're from my 40 Hudson. You might have seen pictures of it. I decided to keep, I wanted to keep the skinny tires on it and wide whites. I like the look of them, and I've got beauty rings, but I'm not sure if I'm going to use them. I think I'm just going to leave them black and chrome lug nuts. The hinge pins, brand new made. My cousin made them in a lathe out of stainless steel. All the original door handles are in it. I guess next I'll show you the engine and talk to you about that. Okay, I'll show you the engine. It's a 49 ABA. I got out of a 2-ton truck. It was the third motor I'd gone through. The first two motors had cracks from the cylinder to the through the valves, and yeah, they weren't good. So this is the third one, and it turned out third time is the charm, I guess. I bought a stroker cam off Speedway, so it's a 4 1/8 stroke, and we bored it 120 thousandths. So it's depending on how you calculate, either a 284 or 286 cubic inch now, from starting out as a 235 or 239. Offenhauser head, aluminum head, finned heads, Offenhauser dual intake. It's got adjustable lifters in it. Headers, another eBay item. So I rebuilt the carbs. The heads I polished. Same with the intake. It was all just rough. I polished the intake. Most of it was by hand because there's so many crevices and nooks and crannies. I will never do that again. That was 2 months that I'm not planning on doing that. I'll never do that. Never polish your own heads. I can't stress that enough. It's got a alternator. That's another Speedway item. So the heads, originally everything was bored. We actually bored this. If you follow our other videos, the garage that we're building the 52 Ford half-ton, well, this engine was bored in that garage. Basically by hand, we bolted a portable boring machine to each cylinder and bored it out. Same with, we honed it there. The heads, once the engine was assembled, we put the heads on, tried to turn it over by hand, and the valves were hitting the top of the heads, so I had to pull the heads off and bring it to my cousin's shop and make a jig up to hold the heads at a proper angle and fly cut the insides so the valves would clearance. It's got the old style cloth wires. The whole wiring system is old cloth wiring. If you can see down here, wherever I could, I've used the old stuff just because I like the looks of it. Painted the engine goldy bronze, just out of it's not a specific color, I just picked that out of a book. Painted it at my other cousin's garage. The put hardened valve seats in, you had to grind those out using an IDL machine at my cousin's garage also, Ryan. The fan, we made this because the fan was a little bit too far away from the rad, so my cousin Derek turned that down, made it out of aluminum. Of course, these things are oiled. There's an oiling hole here, screw. You have to oil them. I didn't realize that the first time, so I screwed the bearing up once already. So yeah, we had to mill this out. There's oiling passages in there you had to make. It was quite interesting. The firewall has been set back. We pushed that back to accommodate the engine. The rad, it's because the rad holds the front grille, I had to get one basically made. I could have cobbled something together, but it would look like crap, I figure. So I took my old rad and took it to Logan Rad here, a local shop in Winnipeg, and they made this nice aluminum rad. Looks identical as the original. does a perfect job cooling the Flathead, never had an overheating problem, and it just looks stock to me, and that's the way I wanted it. It was expensive, but well worth it. And my cousin made the dual fuel block. That's out of just a solid piece of aluminum made on a lathe. It's the cam in the motor is the ISKI 400. It's quite a lumpy cam for this, but it sounds good and it performs excellent. Yeah, everything in the motor is basically brand new. It's got a Pro Comp distributor and an MSD knockoff. Some people say they're crap, but it's been running for like 5 years on it, no problems. So I figure either I'm the lucky one or they're not that bad. I did originally put orange fuel line. I plan on replacing that with just black rubber, just because these things get brittle and I'm afraid of fires. I even made this little handy holder just to hold that up, just off the carb. And the original nameplate of the car. I tried to keep the car as original as possible. I just liked it that way. And a few other things I'll show you about the body. When I found this in the field, it was hit by a tractor a couple times. This fender was hit. This part of the bumper was ripped off. This is a replacement from a later Hudson. It doesn't have the ribs. We actually had to cut it in the center and re-weld it. I'm waffling whether what I'm going to do about that. I have the original one, but it's missing the last foot of it. I either replace that, get it chromed, which will cost me $1 million, or what I'm thinking now is clean them up, smooth them out as much as possible, and get some chrome wrap and see what that looks like. This fender was also hit by a tractor. It was severely caved in here all the way up to halfway the fender. My cousin did an excellent job of pounding that out, replacing it. Same with this fender. This whole back of it was ripped into 3 different little pieces. My cousin welded those up. We put bracing in the back to hold it together, and it came out beautiful. They're not identical, perfect, but they work, and I can't tell the difference that much. The only bad thing is 2 years after we finished doing all the body work on there, I saw an Nos rear fender for $200 US on eBay. So could either wait 2 years and hopefully find an Nos one, or we fixed it. So we decided to fix it. This panel here was completely rotten out. So this is my first attempt using an English wheel. This is the second attempt I did. The first one didn't fit good. This one fits amazingly. So I made that on the English wheel. Leaded the seams. That we didn't quite clean it properly. I don't know if you can make out. There's bubbles there and there's bubbles here. That's from the lead. So eventually we'll have to take that panel off and clean it. Sand it down and paint it, but that's a few years away still. Well, I guess we'll go inside now. All the original doors. The doors were rotten all 4 doors were rotten out the bottom. We replaced all that. The fenders also had some cracks and some dents, but nothing too major, not like the rear fenders. I had all but one of the interior moldings. They're unique to a 36 4-door. A 2-door will not fit. The bigger Hudson won't fit. A 37 won't fit. So I managed to find one on eBay. and got that. But the only thing is there's two different models. One has a split window here with a swing out wing. This one doesn't. It has a little pocket in the back here, and you can see when you roll it up most way, there's a gap at the front, and then it slides forward as you continue rolling it up. So that, I had to make that panel and weld that in. Also had to make, they don't make a wide felting in there, so I had to be creative and cobbled some pieces together. But these are all generic window tracking. The rubber molding, they remanufacture these. The brake pedal, I didn't want it on the firewall, so I put the master cylinder underneath the carpet. There's a little hatch there, and I just put Velcro on my carpet. I'll tell you about my carpet in a little bit. But brake, clutch, original clutch pedals, we just modified them to fit. Original column, we extended, since I'm a little bit taller than people back in the 30s apparently. I had to move the seat back like 4 inches. If you can see, it sits partway in the back of the back doors, but you can still get in. So then we moved or extended the steering column the same, about 3 inches, 3 to 4 inches, I can't remember exactly. And that also because we had to move the firewall back also. The floor was rotten out, so we replaced all that. We put 3/4 inch square tubing underneath the tranny tunnel and everything to stiffen everything up. The floor, carpet, $5 mats at Home Depot. I used 3 of them. They worked excellent. A little bit of Velcro, that's just my floor mat. A little bit of Velcro holds things together. Same with here, I just put Velcro. It holds perfectly. That holds the carpet in there. That was my cheap carpet, and it works amazing. Steering wheel, original steering wheel, except for we recast the outer rim. The outer rim was falling apart and very brittle from, well, 80 plus years, whatever it is. So we took some aspenite, or not aspenite, but some plywood, and basically milled a circle into it, milled the little knobs into it, made it a little mold, and stuck it in there and poured liquid fiberglass resin, poured it in there. Came out excellent. Then I just painted it and put a lot of coats of clear coat, and it came out excellent. It's not 100% correct, but it's correct enough for me. I broke the center horn button, so we made that out of a piece of aluminum, put some fins in it to coordinate with the finned heads. Also the gauge cluster, that was made out of a solid chunk of aluminum. Decided to make fins in that as well, and then paint it body color and polish the fins. It's got original speedo gauge. It works. Gas gauge here doesn't work, and the oil and that I never put back in, they didn't work. Original one, the original cable even screwed right into the S10 transmission. So it's got the original odometer cable and speedo cable. It's got dual glove box doors. One reason is that so they could, when they sold it overseas in England, they just had to move the steering column over, and that was it. That one has a lock on it. That's an option. If I open this one, I don't know if you can see in there, but I put my fuse panel behind there, and also I've got a little toggle switch here. That is because the Ford Flathead has two different water passages and two different water pumps and two different. So I put two temperature senders, so I can switch that back and forth to see if both banks of the motor are the same. Put a original radio was here, so we decided to put a little tack there. It fits good. All these are not the original switches, but they look old enough. And I'm still doing some of the interiors. I got the door panels to do and the kick panels and the headliner. I made my own headliner, just haven't put it in yet. It's just going to be cloth. It's just being a pain in the ass. The seats, original seats, I shrunk the seats to give me a little bit more room, a couple inches. Then I threw the springs out because they were totally rotten and garbage, and bought some foam and bought a 100-year-old sewing machine. And then we were helping a guy move a lathe in a sewing factory that was going out of business, and he had a couple rolls of cloth and he said take them. So I took them and I proceeded to make my own seats, and it's not perfect. It's the first time I've ever sewn and the first time I've ever made a seat. So they even made a little wood grain panel down there, but it came out good enough. Maybe once I win the lottery, then I'll redo the seats. But other than that, the back seats are done. So that was my first attempt and only attempt at doing interiors, and I still have the door panels to do, but that's about it. Well, I hope you like this video. Please like, subscribe, and ask questions, whatever you want. I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for the shout out, and if you want to go see Outlaw Edge also, he's from Minnesota. I've never met the guy, but he does amazing stuff.
And I'd also like to give a shout out to Brent at Half-Ass Customs for giving us the plug the other night. It was very thoughtful and appreciated of him. I think we're going to go take a break from shingling all weekend. Probably go for some ice cream and go see if Double D's around, and maybe go introduce ourselves and go see him. So have a great day. It's ice cream time.